Okay, so I think we have changed the schedule. That's why we have few participants. Okay, it doesn't matter. They may watch the video later. Okay. Now, if you remember previously, in the same session, we have determined some quantities of different materials. Okay. And you can say excavation, PCC work, brickwork, okay, concrete work. However, in brickwork, as you can see, the total brickwork that is 420 CFT. Okay, this is the actually the total. We have not subtracted or deducted the quantity for door, or you can say the volume of the window. Okay, so it's really important to subtract those things. Now I'm going to delete this row. Okay, and I'll say detection, okay, for different elements. You can say detection for window and doors, okay? Or you can, let's say we have detection for window first, and then we will have detection for doors, okay? There can be ventilators and many more things. So you have to deduct the volume of everything, okay? uh, that have just, you can say, covered some space in the wall. Okay, so we have detection for window, and let me just insert another row. So we can have detection for deduction for door. Okay, now in the same drawing, as you can see, we do not have, you guys can see the screen, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have only two things. Okay, you can see, you can confirm that from the 2D plan, from the section, and even from the front elevation. Okay, we have only door and window. So we will have deduction for those two things. And here I'm going to insert another tab. Oops, sorry, just here maybe another tab. And I'll say total deduction. And then after total deduction, we will have to determine the net quantity of the brickwork, okay? You can say net brickwork. So it's going to be very simple, okay? All right. Now, as you can see, the deduction for a door, we have only one door. So in the number column, we will have only one. Now, the length of the door, okay, it can be, you can type BI in the command bar. It must be shown in the drawing. However, we don't have detailed drawing, so we can just confirm that from here. It is 3 feet and 6 inches, okay? So for a door, we can type 3.5, okay? And then the width, the width of the door can be, you can say, equal to the width of the wall, okay? Because it is just the same thing. So we can just drag that video below. Now the height of the door, now if you remember, there must be some legends for the doors, windows, okay? So you can confirm the dimensions from there, okay? Legends means some tables, okay? Like you can say door one, door two, there can be different size, okay? So you can confirm that from the legends. This time you do not have legends, so I'm just using this AutoCAD, okay? Let's see what's the height of the door. I can just see, I can confirm that from by using DI and specify the height. You can see this is 7 feet, okay? So I would say that the height is just 7. Now I can drag the formula so we can see the quantity. Okay, this is deduction. It means 18 CFT will be deducted from the total brickwork. Okay, now deduction per window. Window is only one. If you have multiple windows, you can put the video for that. Okay, now the size of the window, as you can see that from the plan and even from the ledgers. Okay, it is just 6 feet. Okay, this is the length. So 6 feet. Width must be the same as the width of the wall and the height. Okay, let's just see. We do not have height or legends, so AutoCAD can help us. DI, and let's click this point and that one. You can see in the bottom that is just 4 feet and 6 inches. Okay, so I can just type 4.5, and we will just use the same formula for the same thing. Okay, it is just actually the multiplication of these four columns. Okay, now we can determine the total deduction. Okay, this is actually the total deduction. Okay, we can use the sum functionality. This one, as you can see, we have 38 point something. Okay, Now, the net brickwork can be actually if you type equal and the total brickwork. I mean, just you can say these two columns. Oops, wait a minute. Equal, and we will have a bracket maybe. And you can see these two things are actually just the quantity of the brickwork, okay, including the deduction. Okay, so we have to just subtract from those things. Okay, now I can say this, and I'm going to type plus sign and this one. Okay, it's better to add them before the deduction, so it can be very easy. Okay, and I'm gonna close the bracket and let's subtract the deduction. Okay, where is the deduction? This is the total deduction. Okay, press enter. As you can see, we have now this is the quantity. Okay, you can just change the color of it so you can understand about the things. Let's say this is the total quantity here. This is the total quantity, okay? So it's better to share them so you can see the things very clear, like total PCC. Then you can, of course, calculate the quantity of different materials used in PCC. What's wrong over here? We have total PCC. Okay, these are actually two different things, okay? That's why, that's the reason. Now again, we have, okay, this is, where is it? Total PCC, stonework. This is actually total stonework, okay? Total stonework. If you remember, we have done this previously, okay? On the same, in the same video, you can see. Now this is the total excavation. We are doing it, right? So RCC slab that's been done, okay? Now next, let's focus on the floor. Okay, in the same drawing, as you can see, we have floor, and there we have 10 inches soil. Okay, so let's say number 7, and that is actually about the floor. Okay, and in the floor we have, as you can see, 10 inches soil filling. We will calculate that, and then about that we have actually where is it? That is 2 inches sand filling. Okay, so let's type 2 inches sand filling. And then above sand filling, we have 1 inches concrete, which is 124. Okay, so let's see that. We have 1 inch concrete, and that is, of course, 124. Is that clear? And number, these things must be one because we have only one floor. Okay, so these are just, you can say, 1 1. Now what should be the length? You can confirm that from the section and maybe from the foundation plan as well. Okay, so this is going to be very easy. Now, as you can see, this is 12 feet. You can see that. Okay, so as you can see, now look at the foundation. We have to just subtract this portion, which is actually maybe 2 inches, because this is 2 inches offset. You can confirm that from the foundation. Look at that. Okay, the offset is just 2 inches. Okay, so from 12, we have to subtract 2 inches for the soil filling. Okay, this 2 inches, and for the other side 2 inches as well. Okay, so it means 4 inches can be subtracted. What do you say? The total length, that is 12, and we will subtract 4 inches. It means we should have 11.667 feet. Okay, now this is square. Okay, you can see the plan. This is just square, 12 by 12. It means the width should be the same. Okay, is the length. Now the height, which is 10 inches. Okay, 10 inches means if you just divide that by 12, we can get that in feet, and that should be 0.833. It's very easy. Now we have to copy this formula and paste it over here so we can have the quantity. You can see that. Okay, which is 113 CFT soil filling. That means 1 sekada, little bit more than 1 sekada. Okay. Now 2 inches sand filling. Okay, let's focus on the same section. Okay, the width for the soil filling and for the sand filling, it is just the same. You can see that. Okay, so it means the length and width, these things are the same. However, the thickness is just different. Okay, that is different, and that is only 2 inches because it's given in the drawing, okay, that the sand filling that is 2 inches, or you can say 0.166, okay, that is in feet. Just drag the formula below so we can have 22 CFT maybe, okay. You can just put the, you can say unit for that, we're here. Now the concrete work. You can see that the concrete work that is just, okay, little bit, we cannot subtract, you can say that extension, okay, it is the same thing as the width of the, because this is just above the, you can say DPC, okay, so we have the same thing as 12 feet, okay, that is clear, 12 by 12, and the thickness that is actually 1 inch only, okay, what do you mean by 1 inch in feet? That should be 0.0833. Okay, just drag the formula below so we can have that in CFT. What do you say? It's very clear now. So this is for the floor. Now next we will be just determining the quantity of the plaster. Okay, so let's do it. We have the quantity of plaster. Okay, and that is number 8. Okay, plaster work. Now, plaster work, let's say that is just 1:3. I'm writing these ratios because after the completion of this small project, we will be just determining different materials used in these things. I mean, we will have some analysis, okay, for different materials such as sand, cement, whitewash, maybe, etc. Okay. So let's do it. Now the plaster work. Look at the drawing. Okay, we can have plaster. Okay, on different places. Maybe the internal plaster and the external plaster. Okay, we will have plaster over here as well. Okay, just you can say between the ground level and the plinth level. You can see. Okay, we can have plaster just over here. Okay, on this face. Okay, and below ground level, there is no plaster because that's just, you can see it is just inside the earth. So how can we plaster that? All right. So let's say if we have internal plaster. Okay. Now in number, we, okay, there can be different methods. You can do long wall, short wall. You can actually determine the parameter and then multiply that with height. I think that is simple, okay? We have to determine the parameter. Like as you can see, this is the internal, okay? This is just, you can say a square. So the parameter of square is very easy, okay? We have to add all these sides. You can say 12, 12, 12, and 12, okay? It means 4 times 12, okay? This can be the parameter of the internal walls. Okay, so 12 times 4, that can be actually the length for the plaster, that is internal one, okay, and that should be 48. Okay, now in number I'm gonna put 1 because we have only one room. Now remember the weight of the plaster, that is just not taken, you can say the thickness, it is the same thing as DPC. Okay, we will include that in analysis. Okay, so we have to take the height only. And how the height? Just focus on the section. As you can see, in the section, we have the height that is actually the height of the wall, 11 feet. But for the plaster, that is not 11 feet. As you can see, 1 inch has already been taken over there. Okay, by, you can say, the concrete work. Okay, so now if you can confirm it, okay, let me just see if we can see it by linear. So this can be little bit, you can say, less than the 12. Okay, up to this point maybe, and that is actually 10 feet and 11 inches. Okay, because 1 inch is already been covered by the you can say concrete work. Okay, so 11 inches and 10 feet, I mean it can be actually 11 by 12, okay, which is 0.9 and plus 10, so we can have 10.916, okay, is the height, that is 10.916. Okay, now we have to only just multiply these two things. Okay, we do not have to multiply the, you can say, the thickness, okay, because the thickness can be 1 inch or maybe half inch. So we will add that in analysis. Okay. Now the quantity must be in SFT or in square feet because this is just the area. Okay. So let me have a formula. You can say equal and we will multiply the number, okay, with the length and then the height, which is actually F32, okay, per-center. Okay, this is in square feet. Now, the slab, which is internal, let me just write internal slab. And let me include one another word, that is plaster. Okay. Now, in number slab is only one. Okay, let's see in drawing. This represents actually the slab, and the internal size that is actually 12 feet. You can see that. Okay, so 12 feet is the length, and this is actually square. It means we will have only 12 by 12 slab, okay, inside, and we will drag the formula below. Okay, it's very simple. Now, internal plaster that is just done. We will have external plaster now. Okay, and then we will add all these plasters so we can have the quantity, maybe you can say. Okay. All right. So external plaster. Okay. Now in external plaster, the let me just include something where here maybe walls. Okay. Now in external plaster, we have, let's say, walls. Okay. And above the plinth level, maybe. Above plinth level, I'm gonna say PL1. Okay. Let me just have ref text. Okay. Now in number, we will have to determine the parameter again. Okay. As you can see, this is external wall. So we can have the plaster on this surface. You can see that, okay, on this surface, only on this surface. Okay. And the height that is actually known, it is 11 feet. You can see that, okay. Now the parameter, we will have to take the parameter, which is the external parameter. Let me just draw a rectangle so you can see this parameter. Okay, we have to take this parameter only. Okay, you can see that. So this parameter can be determined very easily. It is the same thing as we have determined the length of the wall B. Okay, as you can see, we have 12 feet, just the same thing. Just a minute. It is actually 12 feet from this point to this point. Okay. What we have to do is just to add 9 inches to one side and 9 inches to another side, just for the walls addition. Okay, so this is going to be the one side of the square. So it means we have now 12 feet and 9 inches, and 9 inches are 18 inches maybe, which is 1.5 feet. Okay, so it means we have one side 13.5. And let me just confirm if we can see it, okay, by linear. So this and this, you can see that, okay, it is just 13 feet and 6 inches, or maybe you can say 13.5. Okay, so now there are four sides, okay, because it is a square. That's why I'm going to multiply that 13.5 with 4. Okay, and that's going to give me the length, which is actually 54. Okay, in number, I'm going to put only 1. Now the weight is never taken. The height is known, which is of course just 11 feet from the section, and we will just apply the same formula. What do you say? That's very easy, okay? So these are external walls. Next, we will determine this portion. You can say, let me just draw a rectangle, this portion, and then that portion on the other side, okay? And it is the same thing because you can see these places are just plaster, which are actually the distance between plinth level and ground level, okay? So I'm gonna say external plaster between plinth level and ground level, okay? Okay, a number that's going to be 1. Now we have to determine the length, and you can say the height. The height is just known, I think. You can see the distance between plinth level and ground level. It should be given over here. And that is, I think, if I'm not wrong, 12 inches. Okay, so 12 inches is the height. So I can put 1 over there because 1 feet and 12 inches, that is just the same thing. Now let's just determine the parameter, okay? Up to this point, you can see, let me just have dimensions and then linear. Now from this point, till this point, that is actually the side of the square, okay? And that is 13 feet and 10 inches, okay? Pretty cool. So we have to multiply the one side with 4 because we have a square. It is simple. If it's rectangle, you have to determine them separately, okay? So 10 by 12, that is actually zero point 0.8, and we will add 13. So we have the one side now times the 4. Okay, so we can have 55, maybe, like you can say that. Okay, 55.34. Okay, cool. We have to derive the formula just below. And this is very little because the height is so small. Okay, one thing I think is just remaining. 2, I guess 2. Okay, this 1 feet portion and then this vertical portion of the chacha. Okay, so we have to determine that. Okay, plaster, you can say chacha. Okay, and I'll say the horizontal portion. Okay, and then we have to determine the plaster and chacha, and that is going to be, let's say, the vertical portion. And number, we have to just put 1 because it is just the same thing. Okay, now if you see, it must look like the same thing is this one. Just a minute, okay? I can show you. It should be, if you look to the diagram, it should be the same thing is like this one. Okay, so we have to plaster this shaded area, maybe you can say. Okay, let me just show you if you guys can see it. Okay, this shaded area, I mean. Okay, so how do you determine the area of the same shaded area? It's very easy. Okay, we have to subtract the internal rectangle, you can say square, from the external square. Or we have to determine the center line length and then multiply that with the width, which is actually 1 feet only. Okay, so this is what we have to do. And another thing, which is actually the vertical one, so that's very easy because we have to check the one side. Let's say this is the one side from this point to this point, which is actually 15 feet and 6 inches. Okay, let me just cover this thing first. Okay, 15 feet and 6 inches. One side is, you can see we have square, so we have to multiply that with 4. Okay, it means the perimeter of the plaster, that is actually 62 feet. Okay, and the height, that is actually the thickness of the slab. Okay, so we have height, which is 0.5, that is 6 inches. Okay, now however, chajja and you can say the horizontal portion of the slab, which is this portion, you have to determine the center line. Okay, and how you gonna do that? Okay, for that, let me just draw extra line from this point to this point. Okay, and then from this point to this one. Okay, so we can determine the center line length. Okay, I'm not gonna do that on whiteboard because we have discussed this thing before, how to determine the center line length. So the center line length is 14 feet and 6 inches. Okay, 14 feet and 6 inches, which means 14.5 times 4 for the square. Okay, so that's gonna be 58, right? And the weight can be 12 inches or 1 feet. Okay, so this is actually the total plaster work. Okay, now we have to add all these plasters. So this is actually the total plaster work, which is SFT. Okay, and I'm gonna share this is yellow. Is there anything which is remaining?
यार इसमें डिडक्शन नहीं करेंगे प्लास्टर में विंडोज और डोर की
Oh, very good. That's what I want. Okay, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, let me just subtract this thing. Very good. What's your name?
मोहम्मद इस्माइल
Muhammad Ismail. Thank you so much. So we have deduction and deduction for door and then deduction for window. And remember, door is 1, window is 1. But this time I'm not gonna put 1 and 1 because there are two sides of the door and window. Okay, two sides plaster has just been covered. Okay, let me show you that. Let's say this is the door. Okay, so the door has covered plaster uh, area which is internal, and the external one is also been covered by the door. So we have to take two sides. It means 2 and number. Now it is the same thing. Let's say door. the width that is 3 feet and 6 inches, that is 3.5. And we cannot take the height, sorry, the width. However, the height that is 7 feet, okay, if you remember that. Now, for the window, that is 6 feet, okay, and the height that was, if I'm not wrong, which was, I think, 4.5. Okay, let me just confirm it by DI, okay, click this point and this. So it is 4 feet and 6 inches. I was right. So 4.5. Okay. Now we will just drag this formula and we will delete this cell because those are empty. Okay. Now the total deduction, this can be actually the summation of the two. Okay. We do not have ventilators or any other stuff, so we cannot deduct them. Okay. So deduction in SFT, and let me just have maybe one cell over here, okay? Let's say total plaster. So we can have something easy in deduction, you can say, okay? I'm gonna total them, okay? This is SFT. Now let's determine the net plaster, okay? We will just subtract the deduction, okay? So net plaster, and that's going to be actually equal, and we will have the total plaster and we will subtract the deduction, which is 103. Okay, so press enter, and that is actually in SFT, that is total plaster. Pretty cool. Okay, that's good you remember that. Okay, so we have total deduction over here. Okay, you have to recommemorate everything to me because I'm also a human. I can forget things. Okay, so these are actually the total. Okay, we have what number? Let me just see it. We have different things which are actually number 8. That was just plaster. We have 8 types of materials in the same room. Okay, if there is any other type material, you can just check for that, no problem. Okay, now we have different things, so we have to look for the material statement, and in order to prepare the material statement, it is required to determine, or you can say it is required to have analysis of the quantities which are being calculated, okay, in the Excel. Okay, so we have to check, okay, we have to actually make everything separate, like maybe the, let's say, okay, let me just, what actually we need is the PCC work, which means total PCC work. Then we need actually total plaster work, and then the brickwork, and then everything like maybe excavation and etc. Okay, so once we have these total things, then of course we can determine different materials. Okay, let's say if we have PCC work, maybe something like 10,000 CFT. Okay, what we have to determine is actually the cement, the sand, the crushed stone, okay, in the same material. Now in plaster work, let's say if we have plaster work is 5,000 SFT, okay, what we have to determine is actually the quantity of cement and then the quantity of sand in the same plaster work, okay? So we have to look for the materials. You can say we will also focus on the ratios, okay? Like let's say we have 148 over here is the PCC work, okay? Do we have another element that is just 148? No, of course there is no, okay? However, there can be 1 to 4 maybe, okay? We do not have 148, okay, twice. There can be, just focus on this, okay? Stone work in cement mortar, it is 1 3, and the plaster work, that is also 1 3, okay? 1 to 4, okay, RCC slab, that is 1 to 4, and we're here 1-inch concrete, that is also 1 to 4. It means we have to add 382 and that 11.9, okay? After addition, then we will have analysis. Is that clear? So tomorrow, inshallah, we will have analysis, and for today, this is enough because we have a complete project, okay? So see you tomorrow, inshallah, and if there is any question, you may ask. Is there any question?
No, sir, clear है sir.
It's clear because it's just basic, okay? And I think many of you may understand how to calculate or how to do analysis, okay? How many of you do understand that?
Question क्या था?
The question is, let's say we have PCC work, okay? Can you do its analysis like maybe calculating the cost of materials, calculating the cost of labors? Can you do that?
No,
Sir,
sir.
Okay.
material
So,
amount sir.
you must attend the tomorrow's class, okay? See you guys tomorrow, inshallah, and wassalam.